And tonight on the Daily Wrap, has Donald Trump permanently destroyed any goodwill with Mexico for the next 200 years? What did he say this time? A full fact check of the Donald straight ahead. Obamacare in serious jeopardy of being ruled unconstitutional. But does the GOP have an alternative? And Mary Catherine Ham and Guy Benson join us to tell us why free speech is under attack and what we can do to protect it. Fun interview there. You might want to stick around. We got potluck and yay and nay as well. Well, no potluck tonight. This is the Daily Wrap, live from the Big Apple. And welcome to the Wrap, everybody. Joining me, as he always does, Rick Unger in the house.
Good to be here, as always.
Absolutely. And we also have America's pundit and Philly attorney. She is Heather Hansen joining us, and I can't tell if it's red, can't tell it, pink kind of outfit.
But look at those teeth.
It is pink.
They are so white.
Yeah, you got like Tiger Woods white teeth.
Yeah.
They're tremendous. Anyway, finally, host of the Wilco Majority on Sirius XM, Andrew Wilco joins us for the first time.
It is. This is awesome. First time around to be here.
Wow. See, no one ever reacts like that. We never get that from Bruce.
I know Rick does a little part-time work where I work.
Ah, yes, we've heard that. Okay, let's get right to the Daily Download. And 2016, Republican hopeful Donald Trump is taking his show on the road to New Hampshire. A day after his much talked about campaign announcement, everyone can't stop talking about, good and bad. In a speech full of bluster and boasts, the billionaire real estate developer played fast and loose with the facts.
And our real unemployment is anywhere from 18 to 20%. Don't believe the 5.6. Don't believe it. That's right. A lot of people up there can't get jobs. They can't get jobs because there are no jobs.
Well, there were a few things wrong with that sentence and other things as well. Right, Rick? Like this. Last quarter, our gross domestic product was below zero. It's never below zero, quote unquote, from Mr. Trump, you say.
Not true. In fact, we've had 42 quarters since 1946, I believe, where we have in fact had negative GDP.
Interesting.
So
perhaps
we missed on that one.
Perhaps some hyperbole there.
Perhaps.
Yes. Every car, every truck, this is also a quote from Mr. Trump. Every car, every truck, and every part manufactured in this plant that comes across the border, we're going to charge you a 35% tax, this plant being Ford, I believe he was referencing. And that tax is going to be paid simultaneously with the transaction, and you say?
Again, problematic on two fronts. First of all, the president does not have the authority to levy such a tax. Congress does, and even if he could persuade Congress to do it, the NAFTA treaty strictly prohibits that sort of a tax.
Besides that, it's perfectly
otherwise it works fine.
Okay. Another quote from Mr. Trump. We get Bergdahl, we get a traitor, we get a no-good traitor. And they get 5 people that were wanted for years. And those people are now back on the battlefield trying to kill us. Is that true?
Except that they aren't. They may be someday. There's reason for concern, I would certainly acknowledge. But as we are sitting here, those people are still in Qatar, who are still monitoring them, and the travel restrictions that the State Department put on them are still in effect. Again, it's fair for him to worry about it, but he's not accurate when he says they're currently on the battlefield.
Okay, we have more. This is from Mr. Trump. I have assets. Big accounting firm, one of the most highly respected. $9,240,000,000, you get it. And I have liabilities of about $500 million. That's long-term debt, very low interest rates. Well,
yeah, well, one of the most respected money writers in the country, who works at the Washington Post, he's won, something like 7 of the top awards, basically said, you're fired, Donald. That is the loosest interpretation of wealth. I can tell you the magazine that I write for, Forbes, which is known to have a fairly good sense of this, puts his net worth at about $4 billion. He was clearly exaggerating.
Only by double or so.
Not that $4 billion's anything to sneeze at, but
Well, Trump also took on Japan. Take a listen.
When did we beat Japan at anything? They send their cars over by the millions. And what do? When was the last time you saw a Chevrolet in Tokyo? It doesn't exist, folks. They beat us all the time.
Okay, but some folks in Japan were quick to send photos over social media showing, I knew this was going to happen, by the way. You guessed it, a Chevy and a GM dealership near Tokyo, Unger.
I was going to say, last time I saw a Chevy in Japan was about 20 minutes ago when I visited their website in Japan and saw photos of the GM dealerships selling them there. So, you know, I don't know where he's coming up with this stuff.
Well, not hard to use the Google machine in this particular case. Okay, well, those are just a few examples of some of Trump's gross exaggerations. We're now joined by Newsmax TV host and former congressman from Arizona, J.D. Hayworth. How are you, sir? Good to see you. Can you hear
Joe,
me?
it's an honor to be with you. Thanks for the chance to appear.
All right. We may have a little bit of delay, so work
fine.
with me at home. So what are you going to make of the Donald's? Obviously, there were going to be whoppers in his speech. He went completely off script. He tends to exaggerate. He's a salesman first. Is this something that will immediately make him totally uncredible, or does the American public like this kind of candor, even if it is grossly exaggerated in many cases, as Rick just pointed out?
Well, I think Donald, for a lot of people, Trump offers a real difference. And in this information age, there is going to be a situation where you can do immediate fact checking. But I also think that the media needs to be careful because it comes across to a lot of people as having a hostile intent toward what Trump might argue is a larger truth. I will tell you this, based on emails and phone calls and responses from people I know, Trump struck a chord yesterday, and it would be a mistake to underestimate him.
And apparently Rush Limbaugh does agree with you. The conservative talk show host warns voters we shouldn't underestimate him. Let's take a listen.
He said about Mexico, they're sending us their worst people. They're sending us criminals. They're sending us the poor. They're just bad people. Some of them may be good people, but they're just bad people. And we don't need them. And it resonated. That's going to resonate. There's a whole bunch of people, just like Perot resonated.
Wow, JD, the next Perot. Rick, do you agree that he is the next Ross Perot? Could get 19% of the vote like Perot did in 1996?
Well, for starters, he'd have to run as an independent if he wants to be the next Perot and be a spoiler in the election. I don't think that's what he has in mind. I take him at his word. He wants to be the Republican nominee. So that is not Perot-like, Rush.
Well, Donald Trump also said, quote, when Mexico sends its people, they are not sending their best. They are sending you. They are sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems to us. They're bringing drugs, and they're bringing crime, and they're bringing rapists. Sort of reminds me of a film.
Be ready to attack Rock Ridge at noon tomorrow. Here's your badge.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges. Oh, no.
Next! Qualifications.
Stampeding cattle
That's not much of a crime.
through the Vatican.
Kinky.
Okay, so JD, I know you're still with us. Quick question, and this will be the final question. Does a Trump candidacy therefore bring down the rest of the GOP pack? In other words, if he embarrasses the party in any way, shape, or form, and that very well could happen, will that reflect poorly on the rest of the candidates there as well?
Let's be candid. One dynamic that always seems to be at work in coverage of conservative politicians, you find columnists and others who disagree with them that call everybody who's conservative an embarrassment. I think that Trump addresses some topics that, again, strike a note with the American public. And somebody mentioned Perot. Others have talked about George Wallace with a silver spoon in his mouth. But I've got to tell you in all candor, Trump is a guy who has the money to deliver a message. And it remains to be seen if the credibility problems you cited earlier will take him down. And for the rest of the field, look, this is going to be an incredible competition with a lot of different people coming at this from a lot of different angles, even though there are people who say the Republican Party is basically uniform. I think Trump brings a real populist tinge to this campaign, and it definitely is going to shake things up.
And certainly candor as well. JD Hayworth, host of Newsmax Prime. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. And more Newsmax TV coming right up. Stay right there.